It's just a lot easier for people to go into something like that and be able to, let's see, be able to like get back into tactics without having to necessarily focus on theory. There's a lot
For
of,
sure.
I am doing a lot of work on trying to make that a little more friendly, but it's still going to be the limelight slash high end damage format because you still have access to a lot of different things, but there's going to be a lot of limitations coming in that I'm still working on. So, um, a lot of the, let's say for example, the current starter, you have access to every gear in the game, every weapon in the game. That's still more or less the case, but there's going to be a lot more like restriction on stuff. So, for example, currently you can have 25 Chaos Blades. The new starter, there's only one.
Mm, okay.
Valhalla, one. Church Raiden, one. All the katanas besides Church Raiden, two. Because that also plays a role with not only breaks but also throws. So, like throw Chaos Blade was a very like simple to do thing back in the day, and now you're stuck with a harder choice of do you slot that Chaos Blade, for example, and then lose the
Or
ability
do
to
you
throw
throw
it,
it?
or do you throw it? Exactly.
Yeah.
And there's some other aspects too. I'm gonna go ahead and just outright ban arithmetics altogether. Because there's a lot of abusable plays that I managed to already do without really having to do a lot of effort. So I think it's going to be a little too strong with some of the even with some of the restriction. So and arithmetic has always been a touchy subject ever since. Like it's very strong. A lot of people don't necessarily understand the concept of it, but if they do understand the concept of it, it can be very devastating. Being able to just like nuke across a map without any real danger. So I'm gonna just outright not even have that be a thing in that format anymore. I'm going to get rid of the re-raise items, the ones in particular that cause permanent re-raise. We had that issue a while back in Starter, where there were some items like Brave Suit and Shantage, and I think Iron Armor and Grand Armor also had permanent re-raise effects. It's fine if they have a
Mm.
one time, but being able to just constantly do it in battle, not so much.
I I also have a couple, like I have one angel ring, I think, in my pre-made roster
Mhm.
on a melee unit,
Yeah.
and it's like pretty much her only defensive item.
Right. Yeah, and
Otherwise she's
that's fine.
pretty squishy.
Right, right. And
Um,
there's nothing wrong with with it, especially when you're using a more controlled area. But this isn't going to be as much as a controlled area like everything else. So I'd have to be like extra mindful about the things that can come from having access to that stuff. We still want to have access to the ability, the freedom that Tactics provides as a game in general, but want to tone
right.
down some of the possible sheer power that comes from having like in-game gear, for example.
And
Oh
the
Lord,
rules of like banning a certain
doing away with that. Yep,
okay,
yep, doing away with that.
okay.
I think I'll kind of want to kind of see how it is in the field, but I think that doing away like with restricting a lot of the gear choices will make it easier for people, or excuse me, restricting the gear choices and like outlawing arithmetics completely. I think will play a better effect in the long run with not necessarily setting bans. Now, bans are good for possible counters, like they've always been. But there's always been one problem with bans is it demotes the build that the person's trying to go for outright. So if you're trying to do certain things,
Mm,
then we get in a match. I'm like, okay, ban this. All right, so that kind of depending on what the ability is, most bans are going to be some of the high end stuff like Yado's Darkness, just taken off of what happened from like past experience. So if I ban some of that stuff, that might end up adversely affecting a build because of that. So, and I just want to see how that functions without that being necessarily a thing anymore. So there won't be any like
yeah.
host and guest advantages like there were before. It's just like the no wait, that doesn't work like that. It'll just be the bot picking the map or the official if it's in tournament play, either or. And both players just have build diversity with just like base limits built into the file. Um, Another thing, coincident.
I don't envy your, you know, your task here.
The
Like
task, yeah, the task
that's
to try to
really
make
tough.
starter, the task to try to make starter more user friendly than before. I know there were some identifiable problems when I first played it years ago. Um, I'm trying to make it to where it's still an open variety of things, but trying to tone down some of the power without necessarily taking away all the power, because it is supposed to be the, if you want to call it the MLG format, if you will, like the competitive pro
Hmm.
level format, if you will. And I do think some of that stuff comes from some of the higher end stuff, but there's a lot of different restrictions now on a lot of the gear that you won't be able to just slap the best things on and just call it a day. Like a lot of pretty much every end game weapon is either capped at one. Most of them is capped at one. A few are capped at two, and if they're not targeted cap, they're capped at three. So you can't have any more than three of anything at any point. So you also have to pick different items because of that.
How about like job restrictions?
There are no job restrictions currently,
Okay.
besides
So like you can take
besides
five.
arithmetician. My bad.
You can take five of the same thing.
Yes. Well, you technically could be arithmetician. You just can't use arithmetics. My bad. But you don't want to be an arithmetician in that format. It's too
Oh
slow.
fuck no.
Yeah, it's too slow. And yeah, there are going to be some. There's obviously some things that you can do that you can obviously push, like you can max damage out with certain setups. But there's some other underlying changes too. So, with the current starter file, it's 70. All base characters are at 75. The new file will be at 99. Experience 99. There won't be any more reason to level, and of course, de-leveling or level cycling is still something you shouldn't do. It's purely about just having access to all the equipment and all the abilities, and you could slap whatever you want on within the limitations that are already set, and then that's it. So you can choose. Go ahead. What's up?
Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just saying you can choose to go. About if you want to make a like Black Mage Iato setup, which is one of the more common hard hitting damage dealers. But you're going to be locking yourself in with certain other stuff, like with certain other gears, going to start to become a lot harder to access on different other setups. So you're playing a little bit more risk
Exactly.
because of that. So
You're like quarterbacking in a way. Like you can put all of your resources into one character,
correct,
make him a Death Star.
basically. But some of that's going to also adversely make it harder to make the second character just as hard hitting, for example. So I'm hoping that that will shift some of the, like I said, it kind of targeting some of the ceiling, but not really in the sense of just getting rid of all of it. Because that was one thing I originally, I actually talked to Drace about this a lot. I consulted with him a lot about this stuff because that was like the first thing we got into when we was designing Tactics League was started. That was the initial everything. So I was talking to him
Yeah.
about some of the stuff, some of the problems that I remember experiencing, and some of the stuff that would come from the current format. I was trying to come up with ways to not hurt build diversity because I know that's the main thing that if people are going to play this, that's like the custom roster aspect of it is the main reason to play it. Um, and I know like bans are great with controlling certain aspects, but then like I said, going back into the part of build diversity, bans can also affect that said diversity. So I'm
Right.
trying to see like how well keeping like limiting certain other areas, how well that plays, and just still having like freedom of choice.
I dig it. I again I appreciate that you have guiding
Oh my god.
principles.
Nice.
Yeah. I really do appreciate that. And you're not just like acting on whims or on my feels. I mean, feels are important, right? Like you want to acknowledge like it felt bad losing in this way, but you have to understand what made you feel that way.
Right, right. And yeah, it's like with the premise of what Star is supposed to be, yeah, it's supposed to have some of these like hard-hitting things. It's supposed to be designed that way. But like I said, there's a lot of I know a lot of the stuff doesn't seem Well, I bet a lot of stuff can just seem outright OP, if you will. But there are a lot of different counters around a lot of different situations. Um, there are some things that require needing to think a little bit more on, like if you're afraid that um, throw ninja is going to be a problem, even with gear limitations. Like Shira Hidori is going to be more of a thing now. Sticky fingers is more of a thing now.
Sticky fingers.
Exactly. So they like
So
there are counters.
useless.
I mean, stick like when throwing things around is a very possible like range tactic.
If it's
Yeah,
meta,
yeah,
then
yeah. If it's
you
meta,
just
yeah.
have like one tanky dude that's got sticky fingers and a bunch of accessories.
Hmm.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, it can definitely work. Like sticky fingers isn't that great, but depending on what's happening, it may not be a bad option. Arcane defense against like the Iato skills, stuff like that. Like there are many different things that you can do to circumvent some of the stuff that you could be like you would consider a threat, especially to like your comp. But yeah, I'm really like excited to get it out. There's a little more things I want to do, like want to double check and stuff before I get it out there. I don't know if it's going to be this week necessarily, because I want to make sure that when I do get it out, that there isn't any like uh-ohs going around. Like, I'm pretty aware of how everything is set up beforehand.
Yoshinja, you have 3 uh-ohs waiting in your inbox.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, probably. Drop in Orlando.
So,
Oh, what's up?
oh, I was gonna ask about like what kind of stats the characters are gonna have. Like, are they all just clones of? Oh shit, she doesn't have Phoenix down.
Correct. She does not.
Oh my.
The only person that can res anybody is the monk or Ash. He's got to be on the same
Wow.
vert. So there's actually a reason for that too, and it's actually specifically what you're doing. Is the chocobo. That's why why I ended up dropping that off. So there's a couple of
So
usable
ridiculous.
options with the chocobo and throwing a phoenix across the map. Even more so, there's a on Golgolata or Golgolata Gallows, whatever it's called. You can actually mount the chocobo up into the top part of the gallows, and then like with one of the gunners, just kind of like chill up there. I mean, yeah, it's kind of forcing the hands of the other player, which is also why you need to make sure you have usually one ranged player with you, or one range monster with you. But
you could just have it to where the chocobo is like your support character.
could be. I like the concept of the mount though, like just
I
what
do
it does,
too.
what it enables.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Now that I'm using it, I'm
Mm.
like all about it.
Let's see. Oh, that heal. Plan on removing Orlando from the roster completely because he was banned a while back. I just didn't have a applicable source to replace him. But after taking a look at the Uniques pre-made roster, I'm actually going to replace him with Avelia.
Interesting.
Avelia has innate arcane defense and defense boost. Also, she still has access to her holy magics, or at least if you keep her on the princess job, she does. So, she has Aegis, which is single target, re-raise, protect shell, region, haste, and Dispelna.
It works
Yeah, and Dispelna being able to remove every
everything.
negative in the game. Yeah, or most negatives in the game. I think she's actually like there's still the unique limitation. Like you only have one unique, but I think she's actually going to be a decent unique against a lot of the hard counters, or like the hard hitting stuff, because she has less stuff. So you don't need to slot innate I can't remember defensive boost or arcane because she already has it. That gives her the option to run safeguard or anything else you find her needing to have. Or like swiftness. Actually, it'd probably be swiftness in most cases. But yeah, I think from what I've seen so far, she's a pretty good option for unique. And actually, the robot is too. Automaton, the construct A guy. Because he's like at level 99, he's like 800 some health. He's bulkiest guy in the game.
That's so dope.
And his
Yeah, so-
laser hits hard as crap too.
Did you answer my question? I just like zoned out about
I might have
like
zoned out.
what are the stats
So-
on the characters.
Oh yes. Okay.
So,
So the just starting with bravery and faith. All the uniques have their bravery and faith that they had when they initially joined the party in the story. So it's pretty much the
Okay.
bravery and faith they already have in the unique premades roster, because that's what we said all the uniques and the premades was to their starting brave faith. So that still carries over. The generics will have 60-60, and none of the stuff when it comes to stats should be modifiable. So that gives every reaction-based bravery a chance to work, 10% higher chance to work, but it may not always work. It also adversely affects faith, but also gives a reason to use the faith status if you need to directly. You also have access to Rod of Faith as a weapon in that format, so that's automatic faith as a weapon. It's limited to one, but it gives the wielder faith automatically. So that's another option to, like, if you're worried about like magic and stuff. Magic seem to be in a better spot with this upcoming starter version than the old version, because the old version there was almost no reason to run magics because the damage potential was so high that trying to cast anything would get you killed.
how about like raw stats? So like basically, did you fill up the generics with squires and then whatever you
Yes.
change them into, like they just inherit the class stats for?
Correct. Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
cool.
Yes. So they
That's-
all.
That was the question I was trying
That's
to
the reason. Okay, my bad. Yes, all the generics and even the uniques, they're all set to level 99 of their base job. So they will have
Sweet, okay.
they'll have a base 99 squire job. So when you job change them, they're only job changing to the stats of what it would have been at 99 ninja, whatever, with no like additions. They're like level boosts or whatever, if you will. It's going to be purely the job itself altering the stats at that point.
Right. So then that means that you only get one ninja then, like one fully maxed out ninja.
What do you mean?
Because like, so say I have, let's say that I have I want to take 5 characters. My roster has one ninja that's maxed out, but I want to run 2 ninjas.
Mhm.
GG.
Yeah, I mean, you could. Oh, GG. I mean, you can still run 2 ninjas. But are you asking something more specific?
I would have to switch my job from one class to a ninja, but then I wouldn't gain the stat benefits versus the ninja that's been a ninja all his life.
Correct.
He's gonna have higher physical attack, higher speed.
Okay, so you're saying because they're based on a 99 squire that they're not carrying over anything from the ninja job to that? Is that what you're asking about?
Well, I wouldn't be carrying over the stats. So, like, if you leveled a character 1 to 99 as a squire versus 1 to 99 as a ninja,
Right.
the ninja should have higher physical attack and speed,
Speed.
like notably.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.